The Ukrainian armed forces have officially opened the Moscow front while Putin lounges in his chair at yet another forum. Russians are gathering in the center of the capital to end the so-called special military operation after the final strikes.
These strategic measures and official operations were fully authorized and executed under the direct authority of the sovereign nation of Ukraine throughout this specific phase of the ongoing conflict.
Debris and absolutely everything else, it really seems to me it just suddenly and violently exploded.
The bunker dweller listened to a report on the situation in Moscow via video link, already from a business trip to Kazan, where he had urgently disappeared the day before.
The only option is to gather in groups, come to the center of Moscow, peacefully, calmly, without, so to speak, any bad intentions, to gather somewhere in the center, near the Ministry of Defense, near the Kremlin, and ask the question, what is happening? This is the only option left, in my opinion, of what to do, because further,
The Kremlin is nervous, and that means we have a lot of work to do. Greetings, I am Daryna Gutsalo. This is Ukraine Today. So let's begin our tour of the cotton regime.
It's 8:45. They recently stopped shelling us. Moscow region, tell us, how are you? Do you think it's normal that we've reached the point where, in the region, in Moscow, we can't find shelter, that it's been going on in the capital for so long? Don't tell me that this is a response, a reaction to the fact that we shelled them there. The capital is being shelled? The regions shouldn't have to see this either. How do you feel about the overall situation? We're in shock. Today from 5 to 7 we just watched. About 15 drones took off practically right outside my window. I simply have no words.
And while Putin, sitting at an economic summit far from the epicenter of the action, confidently keeps lying to everyone that the situation is under control,
he is expanding the scope of practical cooperation in areas such as combating new challenges and security threats.
Russian air defense, out of desperation, is simply throwing up its hands. 992 drones and 4 Flamingo missiles. That's how many, according to the Russian Ministry of Defense, they allegedly shot down in a single day. The strongest blow and no chance whatsoever to get away unscathed. So what happened? The so-called Moscow dome still didn't work. Misses from Ukrainian drones and missiles. The Domya Sala is significantly more expensive than others. However, we must honestly admit that the absolute best air defense line currently protecting the city of Moscow is actually the very last one, specifically the 6th line, which is remarkably made entirely out of tall construction cranes. We advise Russians to change all of them. 5 lines of pantsirs and other air defense systems around Moscow are being replaced with construction cranes. A picture worthy of a painting. Ukrainian weapons are taking control of the Russian sky, and the heart of Putin's aggression is entering a state of total...
It was the end of everything. The total collapse of civilization, a true apocalypse. The proud torch of victory burns above Moscow's oil refineries. Just a little more power than usual. As is well known, the special military operation is going according to plan.
Today, live on air, we are watching as the armed forces of Ukraine have found the perfect recipe for making Moscow apologize and urgently end the special military operation. Everyone
is running. They're all running. Right there, at that very moment, it suddenly erupted into a massive explosion, completely bursting apart in a brilliant flash of light right before our eyes.
Can you please? I'll say whatever is best for my country. And if it turns out that this is better for the country, then I will do exactly the same. I will defend and advocate for this decision until my voice is completely hoarse.
People online are joking that clouds are gathering over Moscow, or rather over Muscovites. Could it be rain? Don't forget your umbrellas.
It's already all over our houses. Everything is black. And everyone runs out of their houses and stands there.
Start. It was truly mesmerizing. Our long-range sanctions have once again reached the Moscow region. For the second time this week, the Moscow oil refinery has been hit. In fact, within a few days, Ukrainian drones disabled 100% of the primary processing at the Moscow oil refinery by striking key installations. And this means only one thing: a complete shutdown of a key stage in fuel production. Russians, fasten your seatbelts, or rather, shut off your engines. Or better yet, hold on to your cap because it seems like you've lost it. During the drone attack on Moscow, one of the largest facilities was hit. And this is the capital of the Revs, just so you know. The fire covered an area of 2,000 square meters, and the air defense even fired directly at residential buildings. Once again, Russia found itself in a state of chaotic reaction and consequences that are hard to hide.
The Sudovod is on fire, damn it. That specific thing I just sent you. That's the Sudovod, fuck. It's been hit hard and it's burning up right now. That's the oil depot. Well, not the oil depot, but you know, that thing over there, you get it, on Dzerzhinsky. Yeah, the Sudovod is on fire, damn it.
Due to a record-breaking UAV attack, the operation of all Moscow airports has been completely paralyzed, with 527 flights cancelled or rescheduled. Meanwhile, the craftier Muscovites are filling up canisters with fuel and getting ready to evacuate by car. The Kremlin is openly tense, Moscow is looking less and less like a city of calm, and more like a city living in a state of constant alarm. And they're not even trying to hide the questions anymore. Who are they trying to protect themselves from over there? So tightly that they're blocking off every single meter? Red Square is completely closed off. The towers, the walls, the mausoleum, everything is under armed guard. Machine gunners and spotters are stationed at every position. Armored vehicles are stationed on the bridges, and pickups with weapons are patrolling non-stop. It seems that Moscow now looks more like a fortified military perimeter than the symbol of an inviolable capital. No matter how hard Putin tries, nothing can save Russia anymore. The Russian stock market has crashed to its lowest point in a year and a half. Shares of Russian oil and gas companies are falling. Putin did this with his own hands. No applause is necessary. The emergency collapse of Russia's power has finally come. Putin is afraid to tell Russians about it. The country's economy is barely hanging on. There is almost no money left in the treasury, and the dictator's plans are falling apart. The war has prepared harsh retribution for Russia. The bunker dweller suddenly feels darkness closing in. The Kremlin's war machine is running itself into the ground. An explosion is about to happen that will stun everyone. What shocks await Russia immediately afterward? And what does this mean for the world? Details in the report. Coming up next, the sudden and almost demonstrative disappearance of Russia's main financial figure is already raising more questions than answers. Elvira Nabiullina, the head of Russia's central bank, the person who for years kept the Russian economy on artificial life support, has suddenly dropped out of key processes at a time when economic pressure on the Kremlin is only increasing. Recently, she was absent from a closed-door economic meeting with Putin, where investments and inflation were discussed. In other words, the actual state of Russian finances in survival mode. And this did not look like an ordinary absence. All the key government figures were present at the meeting, but not the central bank, which is usually at the heart of such discussions. It feels as if the main safety fuse has been deliberately pulled from the system. This seems even stranger given that Nabiullina's disappearances are not happening for the first time. She missed major economic forums, did not appear at public events, and the official explanations always came down to sick leave. But the more such disappearances occur, the less they seem like coincidences and the more they look like a symptom.
And now things are starting to add up. An unpleasant picture for the Kremlin. The person who for years patched up the Russian economy after sanctions and crises suddenly disappears just as this economy enters a phase of mounting problems. And if you strip away the diplomatic phrasing, it looks as if the main financial anti-crisis mechanism has either been sidelined or he himself is no longer able to hold together a system that's bursting at the seams. The bottom is already visible in the Kremlin's treasury, from which the war has been financed for years. Leading economists have come to this conclusion in the 5th year of the full-scale war. Russia has almost exhausted its financial reserves. What Moscow long presented as economic resilience now resembles an attempt to cover up cracks in the foundation of a house that is slowly but surely sinking. According to experts, the Russian economy has not collapsed yet, but its structural supports are literally crumbling before our eyes. Economic growth has practically come to a halt, and the budget deficit exceeded the annual plan within just the first 3 months of the year. The situation with oil looks especially symbolic. Even if the price of black gold temporarily rises, Ukrainian strikes on oil and gas infrastructure are hitting Russian exports increasingly hard. As a result, there is an inconvenient paradox for the Kremlin. Oil is still being pumped, but there is less and less money. What is least troubling for Moscow is that Russia is becoming increasingly economically dependent on China. Whereas the Kremlin once dreamed of an equal strategic partnership, the situation now increasingly resembles the relationship between a creditor and a debtor, with Beijing setting the rules of the game. And the price for such dependence, economists warn, will only continue to rise each year. Most interestingly, Western experts are now openly talking about a window of opportunity. In their view, it is precisely now that sanctions pressure can deal Russia the most painful blow. Especially when it comes to the shadow fleet, which helps the Kremlin circumvent restrictions and fill the military budget. And while Russian propaganda continues to tell fairy tales about an economy that has withstood everything, the numbers are increasingly whispering a very different story. The margin of safety and reserves are running out, and the bill for the war is only just beginning to arrive. And that's not all the bad news. Amid large-scale strikes by Ukrainian drones, oil production in Russia has fallen to its lowest level in the past year. And this is now a blow not only to their image, but also to the main source of money that allows the Kremlin to keep financing the war. According to OPEC, in May, Russian companies produced on average just over 9 million barrels of oil per day. This is almost 700,000 barrels less than the level Moscow was supposed to maintain under the cartel's agreements. For a country whose budget critically depends on oil revenues, such a gap looks like an alarming signal that can no longer be hidden behind the pompous statements of propaganda. A year ago,
The Institute for the Study of War wrote that Russia can no longer wage war and develop its own economy at the same time. By and large, that's exactly how it is. These are the official figures provided by Russia's Ministry of Finance. As of June 1st this year, Russia's budget deficit amounts to 6 trillion rubles. That is, even during a period when global oil prices have risen, Russia should have been earning more. But as of May 1st, the deficit was 5.8 trillion, and by June 1st it had already reached 6 trillion.
According to Ivanas, even high oil prices no longer save the Russian economy. The hole in the budget is not disappearing, on the contrary, it is getting bigger and bigger. At the same time, businesses are losing the desire to invest money in the country's future. Just in the first quarter of this year, the volume of investments plummeted by 14.1% compared to last year. And this is already a worrying signal for the Kremlin, because when investors start fleeing the economy, the problems ahead may turn out to be much more serious than the official statistics suggest.
When people say that the economic situation in Russia is on the verge of recession, no, it's not on the verge of recession. It's already a recession. Right now, we can only speculate whether this will turn into a prolonged recession or even a depression that could last several years. So, the economic situation there is indeed very bad. Does Russia have reserves? I still tend to think that this year they still have reserves. As for 2027, there is much less certainty.
The reason for this crisis is obvious. In May alone, Ukraine carried out at least 31 attacks on Russian oil refineries, maritime export terminals, and pipeline infrastructure. This is the highest level of such strikes since the start of the full-scale war. And if earlier the Russian oil industry felt relatively untouchable, now drones regularly remind them that even thousands of kilometers from the front no longer guarantee safety. What hurts the Kremlin the most is that this is not just about isolated explosions or local damage. Gradually, the very economic foundation of Russia's war machine is coming under attack. After all, every damaged terminal, every halted oil refinery, and every barrel not received means less money for missiles, tanks, and continuing the war. And if just yesterday Moscow boasted about its status as an energy superpower, today Ukrainian drones have begun methodically shutting it down. The main oil valve of the Kremlin. And the longer this economic pressure lasts, the less room for maneuver Russia will have. What Putin started as a war of attrition is now working against him. And in this new reality, the main question is no longer how many more economic holes Russia can plug, but how quickly the system will start to lose control when the money runs out faster than the statements about stability. That's all for now. That's it for the moment. Follow the events with us, like and subscribe. See you next time.